Hey leaders, this is your 5-minute check-in for February 24th. What's the big difference between, let's say, an infant and a 10-year-old? When you think of the differences there, how about an infant and a teenager or a child and a parent? I mean, there's so many different things that may be coming to your mind right now as far as physically their development, emotionally, even intellectually, the differences. Um, I like to propose those stages are as an example for spiritually where people are at. What's the difference between a spiritual infant and a spiritual child? Not so much in their age, but in their maturity or the progression of their faith. You know, there's certain things we can expect from an adult or a teenager that to put those expectations on a child or an infant would be unproductive, to say the least. And so these next few weeks, we'll go over some curriculum that I found, and it's done by Jim Putnam's um, Everyday Discipleship, or Real Life Discipleship, I should say. So if you want to look it up, you can. That's where I'm getting it from. I'll maybe email some resources to for you to glean from. But what I really want to talk about in the next few weeks is helping us to identify, not as a way of being judgmental or being comparative, but being effective in how we can minister to the spiritual infant in our youth group, the spiritual child, the spiritual teen. And we may even have a few spiritual parents in the sense of not that they're physically parents, but their level of maturity is one in which they are actively pouring in and maybe even discipling other students. And then another category too is the spiritually dead, which we probably have a wide variety in our church, in our youth group that represents. And it's not meant to be, like I said, in any way condescending or judgmental, but a way of identifying how we can effectively approach and encourage and equip those in those different stages. Just as a brief example, you know, somebody who's a spiritual infant, they may have a lot more questions. They may have a lot of ignorance when it comes to spiritual disciplines, when it comes to how do you read, how do you pray, and to put on them the expectations that they're a spiritual teenager, you know, asking them to pray may be a lot bigger of a stepping out of their comfort zone than somebody who's a spiritual child, even, right? Because they haven't been modeled what prayer is. They don't understand what prayer is. I mean, at its very core, or they haven't read prayers in scriptures that they could easily follow or have seen someone or heard someone pray. That's just one small example of how we can be effectively encouraging, equipping, and understanding the needs of those different life stages of spiritual journeys. And so we're going to unpack those one week at a time, starting with those who are spiritually dead and spiritual infants, kind of maybe doing those in one video, or maybe we'll see how long I talk about those who are spiritually dead and their needs. And I do know we do have some students who are coming to youth group. So for example, if I can use that, you know, students who haven't put their faith in Christ yet, I think it would be unfair for us to expect them to act like believers when they're not, and how they act and how they dress. So their language may be different. Their influences and their sources of influences are probably coming from, you know, more of a non-Christian worldview. They may dress and act differently. All those things are important. We want to address those, but I would probably want to focus more on the heart of the issue, which is their lack of understanding of the gospel and of who Jesus is. Those other things, yeah, they should be addressed. But when it comes down to it, those are going to be, I'm going to keep the main thing. And we all need the gospel, even believers do. But understanding where kids are at, we can be more effective in understanding their spiritual level of maturity, to encourage, to even sometimes convict, and to come alongside and share life with them in a way that encourages them to grow into the next spiritual phase. And so we'll spend the next few weeks talking about that and how to effectively minister to our students. I also want to say, I know I say this often, but I really appreciate your guys' time you guys' commitment. Yeah, you're impacting my family as my kids are in the youth group, and impacting many other parents' kids. And I just want to say thank you. Again, I can't say that enough. So I hope you don't grow weary of me saying that to you. But from my dad's heart, I appreciate it. Everything you guys do. All right. I'll see you guys later tonight.